Identity crisis? Late in life? What's next? Who am I now? If you're over 50, over 60, or even over 70, these are real questions for many who are approaching or are already in retirement. I'd like to share from my own experience how I know this is true. But first, let me divide the waters here because from my experience, these matters only cross the minds and hearts of a percentage of the retired or nearly retired population. So before I share my own story, I'll break this down as I've come to see it. The best way for me to delineate the 2 or 3 and probably more categories of retirees is from my daily routine of starting my day at a local coffee shop. I and a couple dozen others living life over 50, over 60, and even over 70 show up regularly, meaning every day or at least 3 to 5 times per week. So we see each other at this friendly local restaurant and interact on various levels. The question I posed in the title is, what happens when work stops? There is, of course, no single answer. It happens differently for all of us. But I believe my coffee shop experience will provide you an interesting overview for your consideration. In this coffee shop community, we'll call it, we all get to know one another over time on one level or another, since at our age, our physical appearance is an immediate giveaway of the stage of life we're currently living. So consider the following not as a scientific analysis, but rather as my personal observation. First is the smaller group, and these are those who are simply seeming to have a good time. They play games, discuss the computer games that they're actively enjoying. And these are folks not too interested in getting to know others outside of their established boundaries, rather more hello, nice to see you, and simply are not that interested in a real connection beyond that realm. Next, I notice other groups come and go to discuss the matters of life that are in the headlines. They share old stories and reflect on how the world is changing and over these many decades. Another several groups include a more intense element, the book readers. And these typically carry a religious element more often than not always. These are Bible study folks, church-going people at various stages of their walk with God, but more often than not, a rather advanced stage because they are interested in connecting daily issues of life with their own reactions and experiences. These are groups I would like to be in were it not for a larger part of my story that I'll share momentarily, having left that stage of my pursuit a number of years ago. Then there are those who are there mainly to get some form of work done. They have some time for these general discussions, of course, but their life is more obviously more intent on like accomplishing some larger pursuit, some specific goal, or some work project even. So these folks enjoy the interaction with others, the good morning drinks or sandwiches, and starting the day this way is relaxing, yet at the same time purposeful. Now, no humans fit perfectly into any set criteria or methods or identification because we are all uniquely different. Identification politics is a terrible thing, so we certainly do not want to imply anything one way or another about any given individual associated with a given group. I'm just trying to make a clarification here. So these last 2 descriptions, though, about half of my coffee shop poll, let's say, do best align with those who will most appreciate my story. So let me share the brief summary of the story that has driven me to a second wind in this amazing world, and specifically within the framework of this thing we call life, and even more particularly, the retirement stage of life. A fairly new concept, by the way. In my case, as I neared retirement, still a decade from it, the thoughts and emotions began to stir within, asking, what's next? It was like I was already looking back and seeing a life well lived, but at the same time knowing the future would be different than those earlier years. But how different? And in what way? I was not trying to foretell the future, only rather preparing for it as I observed my own kind of thoughts and reactions to such a thing. I had lived quite intentionally for half a century, but somewhere deep within I knew there was more to pursue than what I had been accomplishing up to that point. I certainly did not call this an identity crisis. I didn't consider it boredom. Well, because my life was quite active. I was still healthy. My lifestyle would not allow for such a thing as boredom. So that element within me, on the move, very active, adding more and more activities, kept me going. No boredom. But it was this very element within, seeking to be living purposefully, intentionally, and remaining engaged and active, that led me down a curious path that shocked my friends and family. Now, I'll share more of that curious path in a future video, but for now, let me say it was not a glorious or recommended part of my journey. So for now, please only note that the issues of life after 50 or after 60 can lead you to explore ideas, concepts, experiences that are unlike who you have been for X number of decades. It was after that period of time, let's call it a time of exploration, that led me to see this was actually an identity crisis. Yes, I came to face with the fact that entering this new phase of life, that I did not know who I was, or was becoming, or desired to be. Everything changes as one begins to realize that half a life is gone, at least. This stark reality was like a wake-up call in a military exercise. Get up, it's time to go to war. I began to experience emotions that felt very new to me. The questions about time, life, death, purpose, life, and life in general began to dart at me in increasing numbers. The bold truth that one has lived at least half his or her life is a profound marker that causes anyone seeking more connection, purpose, direction in life to ask questions that feel as though they are demanding answers. And yet, these discussions have never been on the table before. This new phase of life dictates that the world of stuff, activities, routines that I've been living for half a century have not been futile or useless or purposeless. However, deep within, we know those past endeavors are now dramatically changing. Nothing will be the same going forward. This thing we call retirement is a very recent phenomenon, and this is partially why it is a challenge to navigate. I have a video briefly explaining where, when, why, and how retirement became a recognized concept over the past 150 years, but really more pointedly, just the past 75 to 85 years. Now, yes, some folks attempt to keep the old life going by engaging in family matters deeply and being a significant part of their younger family's life structure. And when one family lived under one roof, that really did work well. That natural response to aging is still a part of our psyche. It has been the natural way to age for thousands of years. But today, that's not the world within which we live. Rather, new homes have been established for the younger generation, and it is typically not the best environment for the elder, nor the children or grandchildren to be in that same environment on a regular, ongoing basis. Now, yes, active engagement and regular visits can be formative for many grandchildren, but not being implanted within the structure of their daily lives, even though as little as a century ago, this was in fact valuable time for family growth. But again, now with this thing we call retirement knocking at the door, is more of an anomaly than a natural part of a family life. For you, it may now be time to engage yourself in a world where the restraints of time, resources, and money have been somewhat, maybe even completely, lifted, and discover what's next for you, the real you, the one created and formed by your personality, by your life experiences in work, family, relationships, and friendships, formed by your specific set of talents, abilities, and resources, your personality that was formed by what's come and gone your way for decades, by what you enjoy, appreciate, admire, and desire. All of this highlights a new you for this final part of the race, designed for you to live intentionally and purposefully for the coming years, helping others, counseling, directing, leading, teaching a younger generation. You want to teach them what not to miss along the way. You want to teach them what's really important in the bigger scheme of life, what you've learned, experienced, and traveled through. You want to share and or teach what your heart is speaking to you about regarding all of these matters. And listen, even if no one listens or seems to be interested. Yes, this isn't about a large audience or even an audience. Rather, it is about you focusing on your life and assessing what is most meaningful or significant to you, so you may now, in this last phase of life, project your own essence in a way that you will be able to enjoy a sigh of relief one day and say what Leonard Cohen said in his last song when he wrote, but did not have time to complete it before he died, titled, "Thank You for the Dance." Isn't that beautiful? Yes, seeing and experiencing life as a dance is a beautiful picture for all of us. You see, now in this phase, one paints because he loves the end result and the beauty in his own eyes. One writes because she has a story to clarify, to understand, to share. One may start a business at this later phase of life because he always wanted to, but was never able to do so. But it has been on his heart in some form for decades. We've all seen experiences of that. Another speaks to an audience of 1, 100, or 1,000 because she has a message she expresses most clearly in that particular setting and in that format. Another shares his emotional being with a grandchild because he never touched on such matters during the busy phase of his first half century. One teaches others because she loves teaching, and it has been years since she raised her own family and now deeply desires to teach in some format that works for her in this new phase of life. And on and on and on. What is it for you? Again, this is more about you and your unique life experience more than it is about the potential audience. Frankly, I encourage folks to start with your immediate family, the children and the grandchildren, so they begin to hear you and see you possibly a bit differently than they have known you in the past. Coming to know yourself deep within, not this one that has an outward appearance that most others recognize quite readily. No, this person, you, first come to know by exploring your life, then having your own breakthrough to see yourself as you really are. This one who is redesigning his or her life with a new vigor and intentionality. That one. Again, this is not for everyone. This is for you if you are healthy, still feeling a vibrancy, are curious and willing to be vulnerable and open about who you are at this very core of your being, at this new place in life. that place sometimes referred to as in the marrow of the bone? Are you one that's just fine with doing? Or are you willing to take time to be? To be who you are, no matter what that looks like, no matter what story that tells about you, no matter what another human being may judgmentally assess about you from their own head. Are you finally ready to look in the mirror and say, oh, there you are. I've been waiting on you. I've been looking for you, but I didn't really know where you had been. And you begin to question, who are you? Who am I? Where you are deep within. What it is that you want to say and share with the world that otherwise passes you by in the hectic nature of life as we come and go and get busy here and there. Join me and others just like you in Life Over 50, Life Over 60, even Life Over 70 in my free community, Profound Pursuits, a small group from around the world where these questions, answers, life purposes are discussed and pursued. In my next video, I'll share some of the amazing experiences I have had as a result of opening my mind and heart to these realities of life. The link to Profound Pursuits is in the comments, posted on my channel here, and also here in the description of this video. I'd count it an honor to meet you and encourage you in discovery and exploration of your pursuit during this passing phase of life.